That's a nice one. Nice fish. That's the way to start her out. You know, welcome back to this week's report. Much different this week. We noticed that this weekend a lot of the fish started to slip deep. You know, last week we were getting a lot of these big fish plus slots on top and on the edge. However, I don't know if it's the full moon or just the clear skies, but a lot of these fish are coming out into deep water. And don't be afraid to drill off the structure. You know, sometimes we're 20, 30 yards off the structure, off of points, inside turns. You're gonna get a lot of big fish like that. There she goes. That's the way to start out a morning. You know, last week, the week before, we were starting up on the top edge, even on the edge. This week, much different. And once again, I don't know if it's the full moon, the high pressure, or just the high sun, but we've been starting out every day out in deep water, just adjacent to the structure. Like I said earlier, don't be afraid to drill off the structure somewhat. You know, people tend to cling to structure and think that's the only place where the fish are. There's lots and lots of basin on Mille Lacs Lake. Don't be afraid to use it. You know, much like last week, we mark out the break lines. However, instead of driving right down the break line or the top break line, we've been marking out that bottom contour and then just starting from there. As you can see, we've got clients fishing in the background. We've got Randy McGovern, one of our guide team, drilling, and he's working the entire break line. Like all season long, we start on points and then we work or ice troll all the way down the break. You know, inevitably when you're fishing out in this deep water, you're gonna find perch, you're gonna find slotfish, and of course, big walleyes. And don't be afraid if you run into those tulipy schools. I mean, perch and tulies, that's what they're keying in on. And the perch and tulipies are showing up out in this deep water because we're seeing lots and lots of bug activity. The later in the winter it gets, the more bugs you're gonna find. Obviously, the more bait fish like perch and tulipies, and then ultimately, lots of walleyes. Nice perch. Wow. There's a jumbo. Man. And this is what I'm talking about, bug activity. Let me get this bait out of his mouth. Look at all the bugs in this fish's mouth. I mean, that is some serious bug activity. That's why the bait fish are out here. It's the entire food chain. You know, you got bugs, you got bait fish, and you got walleyes. Not a bad little slot. Deep water, we just keep drilling holes and keep moving along. Even though it's high sun and you know, the fish aren't as aggressive in the middle of the day, as long as you keep drilling holes out in deep water, you're gonna find some fish roaming around out here. You know, when I'm fishing this deep water and working these deeper fish kind of out in the basin, I like to use larger baits, larger spoons. I fish real aggressive. I'm just trying to get the attention of the fish that might be out a little bit further. When you're fishing on structure, you can really finesse them and get smaller baits, but I'll show you what kind of bait I'm using. I like these larger type of rattle spoons, like a big buckshot like that. The big rattle chamber in there. It really rattles and calls those fish in a lot better. Those fish can see it from afar. Also, when I'm hole hopping extremely fast out in this deep water, you know, because I am out in the basin, I like to be able to get that bait down as quick as possible. Big baits coupled with drilling lots of holes. I've drilled a ton of holes today to keep my clients on fish. It seems like the more we move, the better off you are. And once again, you got to fish high in the water column, willing to be aggressive, and it's certainly drilling lots of holes. You're going to ice a lot of these February walleyes. Hey, until next week, I'm Tony Roach. We'll see you on the ice.